Is that for the WCNY? That how you, that's it, right? Okay. Welcome, Chief Mon. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Michael Mons. I'm the fire chief for the Syracuse Fire Department. With me today is First Deputy Chief Dan Downs and Executive Deputy Fire Chief Rick Kisselstein. Chief Downs, he's a 22-year veteran of the fire department. He oversees our operational aspects of our department and the supporting staff that helps support our frontline workers, the training division, EMS division, and fire investigators. Chief Kisselstein oversees our support functions that are more inward facing, internally facing, our maintenance division, our administration division, and our fire prevention. I'll just kind of give a quick overview. We have 9 engines and 5 trucks that are in all the fire stations. We have 70 people on duty, firefighters on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Over 90% of all of our sworn members work on the front lines. The other 10% work in staff functions, but they also work on the line and frontline capacities also. The types of alarms we respond to, I think obviously everybody thinks we just do fire suppression, or they know we do that, but we also have a very active fire prevention bureau that enforces the fire code along with the code enforcement division of the city. They also do fire education in the community. This upcoming year we're looking at engaging 365 different community groups and schools in the city. We also respond to emergency medical alarms. We have a hazardous materials team that is one of the best, is the best in Central New York, because there is only one that is certified. They respond to any hazardous materials, dangerous goods, combustibles, substances, explosives, anything that's a hazard with substances they respond to. We also provide technical rescue services for like confined space, rope rescue, any type of entrapments and building collapse situations. We respond to all the motor vehicle accidents in the city. And we're also trained in like situations with the police, like active shooters and things like that. Over 50% of our calls are for rescue and emergency medical response. We have a great staff of firefighters that are trained with their firefighting skills and with their EMS capabilities. Our fire department, our community impact, we have an ISO rating of 1. This rating means for the taxpayers is that they get a lower tax, they pay for lower tax rates in the city. There's only actually 1 of 5 fire departments in the state that actually have this ISO rating, and we're 1% of the 50,000 fire departments in the United States that actually have this rating. So it just shows the type of fire department we have based on our city and all the different hazards we have and how we can respond to fires. Our response time for any of our alarms is under 3 minutes, or approximately around 3 minutes. We answer every call that gets dispatched to our 911 center in the fire pod. Just for context, there's 50 or so fire departments in the county. There's only 3 other paid entities. They're a lot smaller than we are, but they average about 50,000. There's about 50,000 fire alarms in the city, in the county, and we respond to approximately half of all the fire department incidents in the county. So we respond to half of all the calls in the county. Last year we had 75 structure fires. So far this year we're up to 25. Last year at this time we were at 17. We typically respond between 22 and 24,000 alarms a year. And just to kind of go back over the last year, during our pandemic, which we're still kind of in the middle, our firefighters Did a lot to help keep the city safe. They provided testing in the schools. They tested all the students, the teachers, the bus drivers. We were very critical with citywide planning for purchasing and just paying attention to what's next. So that's kind of the overview of what we've been doing the last year. Moving forward, what's next? As you probably know, we're not going to be located at the airport coming up in the next fiscal year in the foreseeable future. We have a SAFER grant that we applied for that was awarded to us, which is going to pay for 12 firefighters, salaries, wages, benefits for 3 years. That total cost that the city is going to get from FEMA is $3.27 million. We currently have a class of 26 firefighters that we hired. We're down to 24 firefighters right now. 12 of those firefighters are going to be paid for out of this grant. Also coming up in the next year, we're going to institute a cancer reduction program. Firefighters, the occupation of firefighting, firefighters have a 9% chance higher than the general public of acquiring cancer than the general public, and 14% higher chance of acquiring cancer or dying from cancer than the general public. So we're very proud of this initiative we're doing. We're going to put together a cancer reduction program that is going to be one of the best programs in the state to help keep our firefighters safe. So as we move into the next year, coming off the pandemic, or hopefully the tail end of the pandemic, some of the things we're looking at doing in the future are to make sure our firefighters have access to earlier testing for cancer. We put together a first ever formal professional development program. I'll get into that in a few seconds. Based off of that professional development program, which is gonna basically help all of our firefighters, show them their pathways, how to attain vertical ascension through our department, or if they want to transfer horizontally to other different divisions in the department, we're going to give them a guide on how to do that. Hopefully once we get some of these certifications that our firefighters, we want our firefighters to get, we'll be looking at doing some type of accreditation for our fire department. There's not many fire departments in the country that have accreditation, but some of these things that we're putting together will hopefully help us get to that point. Also coming up in the future, you know, the 81 construction is coming up. So we're just planning for making sure our response times can still stay how they are right now, the best in the county. And then we have to look forward to when the 81 viaduct actually comes down, there's going to be almost 19 acres of new developable land. How are we going to be able to protect that? And based on our size of our department, if we're going to develop all those different acres of land and have more people move in and more businesses, we have to look at figuring out how we put more firefighters on duty to protect those new assets for the city. I was going to just get into some of our demographics of our department. We have 389 total employees. Right now, 365 are sworn members. We have 21 civilians. Out of that 389 total, 218 live in the city. That's 56% of our workforce.
How many?
56% of all of our staff lives in the city. Since 2018, I've hired 79 firefighters. There has been 33 female and minority candidates hired. I think since when I first got hired, I've been doing recruiting my whole career. We were able to put together a really comprehensive recruiting program to get more people to take the civil service test, and the hiring that we were able to do based off of that, we were able to give, I brought to the council to do preparatory classes. We've been engaging lots of different parts of the community, and really just focusing our efforts in the city and getting people that never had access to take the test, and then to show them how to take the test. So out of those 79 people, 41% of them were female or minorities that we have hired, and like I said, they're all city residents. One of the things that I'm proud of, since I became the fire chief and working with the administration and with the support of the council, promotions. I think the fire service historically has not been a diverse occupation. I think a lot of fire departments and public service agencies try their best to put their best foot forward, But I think sometimes that goes in spurts for other people. I think it's more important to have a continual program in place to constantly have a plan to hire more people and promote through the ranks. And like I said, as we're hiring more city residents, to give them the opportunity to get promoted is important, just like I had the opportunity. So I was appointed a fire chief by Mayor Walsh in 2018. Before I was a chief, the department had been a paid career department for almost 141 years. Before that, based off the data that I collected, there's been 16 people of color or females that were promoted, and they rose through the ranks, 25 steps of ranks through the department. Since 2018, since I've been the fire chief, and not including myself, there's been 13 people of color or females or other underrepresented groups in our department that have been promoted up 26 ranks in just 4 years. So I think we've been doing as much as we can, and the statistics kind of prove all the work we've been doing to try to diversify not only our department but through the ranks also. So it's something that is always a challenge because of civil service requirements and getting people prepared. And the other thing is people have to want to get promoted. It's a dangerous job to be in charge of people going into these dangerous situations, and you got to have the appetite to want to be a leader in the fire service. So currently we have 365 sworn firefighters, 14 females, which is right around the national average for fire departments. We try to specifically recruit more females to take the civil service test. We put together a recruiting team that consisted of a really diverse team. We did our best to get more females to actually take this civil service test that's coming up. So right now we have 14 females that are on the department right now. We have 69 black firefighters, and based off of all of our supervising officers, 12% of those people in supervision roles are female officers, black officers, or other underrepresented demographics in our department. So,
Chief Mines, talk a little bit about the other underrepresented groups.
okay. So, you know, the goal is to have the department reflect the community, and so we have definitely female candidates who are underrepresented in the fire service as a whole. Historically, in our department, we've been right around the national average. Black and brown members of the city, LGBTQA members, they've been being promoted. They want to be in leadership positions, and they've had the opportunity of actually getting promoted. And you know, some of those numbers are hard to accumulate. You know, to not infringe on people's privacy. But
Right, the certain ones I do get, but
Yep.
is there any way that you can send us over outside of the black and brown? We have Asians and we have different
okay.
categories. So
Yep.
is there any way that you can kind of
Yep.
put all of that together?
Yep, and I can tell you right off the bat, we don't have any Asian members. We have a few Spanish members that, you know, I think, like myself, are in the brown and black category that I put together, but I can send you all that information, definitely. So, you know, the consent decree was in place. I think there was a heavy focus on the black candidates because that's what the federal government asked the city to do, and I think a lot of other representative groups in the city were kind of left behind, whether it's police and fire, because of the consent decree, because it was focused on hiring more black candidates. So
You know, I'm with that, the black and brown, but I
Yep.
think that we need to spread across globally at this point when we talk about that, because our city has a makeup now. Yeah, they fall into the black and brown category, but how do we work to recruit them? Do we have someone that can go into the Somalian community and
Yep.
talk to them about recruitment?
Yep.
So that's just where I'm.
And Madam President, you can talk to Councilor Majuk. During our recruiting, we reached out to all the different community groups that represent the people that you're talking about in our city. We did WebExes, we attended in-person meetings, we showed them how to sign up for the civil service test. We offered them the preparatory class on how to take the civil service test. We've been actually doing it. I know I don't talk about it, or I don't want to say brag about it, but we've been trying to get to the crevices of.
Well, you need to, then I wouldn't be asking you these questions.
Yeah, so we're just kind of working and getting through stuff. Councilor Paniagua, we kind of worked with reaching out to some of the people that she knew that were interested through the Spanish Action League. We've been doing our best to hit a lot of different communities. Ty Shaw was on some of our WebEx meetings, so we've definitely touched all those bases. And I can send you over all of our recruiting information. And based off the last 2 civil service tests that were given, I believe we had more representation in all of those demographics than ever before in our history. So,
Okay, I'm taking y'all off track. We're here for the budget.
but I just wanted to go over that stuff. I know it's a topic that comes up. So.
Question on that, though. So where in the budget does that outreach exist? I see public education programs, but I imagine that's not recruitment, right?
So under our overtime is pretty much specified for all these different types of categories. So I had somebody that was on our staff during the day work on some of those things, but we actually had a line for the hiring process, and that's kind of where that came out of the overtime budget.
Now, Chief, also there is an initiative that I'm seeing the police department doing, which is to be more aggressive on marketing part of their department.
Yes.
Are you joining force with the police department? Is there a discussion to really get going? Like Madam President say, you've been doing a lot, and I've been part of your
Yes.
recruitment effort. But is there?
So what my goal has been, I mean, if you go on our Facebook page, we do a lot of engagement in all those different social media types, but my main goal with this topic is to actually put policies and procedures in place, so when I'm not here, they're gonna be in place for the next person to come. So some of the things that we've been doing, I'm on this fire advisory committee of New York State that actually puts together the civil service test for the firefighter series. And what we did in 2018, our department helped revamp that test. It was kind of like the SAT test, how there's a lot of people that think the SAT test was biased based off of certain communities that couldn't score high on the test. Those types of same issues came up with the civil service test. So I'm on the committee right now that we review all the test questions. We kind of go through all the different aspects of the test taking process that all the people that we're talking about that have never really had access to, and making the test more more attainable based off the process. So this test that has been revamped, I don't believe there's no other public safety test that has been revamped like this. Based off of that, we've got more minorities that have scored high than ever before, and that's why the last couple of times we've hired, we haven't even needed the consent decree, because we have more people of color and females scoring higher than ever before, but it's because of those procedural and processes that we're putting in place that are not just in our department, but they're statewide. So right now we're working on the promotional test. One of the things I'm working with, it hasn't really been announced, but we're looking at putting out a study guide for, and it's not really a racial or certain demographics, because there are a lot of people in our fire department that are really great firefighters. They just can't score high in the promotion test, whether they grew up in the city or not. So we're
That
putting.
are also non-minority.
Can you say that again?
That are not minority.
That are not minority.
Okay.
I mean, so the testing system, the civil service, I know you spoke about it, you know, we talk about it all the time. It's always a hurdle, but the marketing that you're talking about, I've been focusing on changing processes that are gonna be in place after I'm not around, or whoever comes in after, you know, my term here is done. They can just pick up the marketing and do all the other soft, I would say soft, things you can do to attract more people, but putting policy and procedures in place will have a long-lasting effect. And when I talk about not trying to just do it once a year or twice a year, having these procedures in place are going to be here, so you can constantly have something to lean back on all the time. So that's been my goal. And it's been successful. You know, there's an employment shortage. I would say throughout, whether it's the city departments, throughout occupations as a whole. I don't have a hard time finding people to become firefighters. I have too many. I mean, we have too many people on the list. We don't hire good candidates because we can only hire a certain amount of group of people per our budget. We diversify, like I was telling you, over 40% every time we hire. I don't have a problem with attaining good candidates. I mean, because we do a good job recruiting. We teach them how to take the test, and that helps them score high on the test. Because if you don't have all those things, those processes in place, a recruiting process, a process to help them score high on the test, and then a process to actually get through the interview process. In our interview process, we hire some of the most diverse people that interview our candidates. And I don't even have anything to do with it. It's people that we come to the conclusion that we trust, and they go through and they pick the candidates, and we, sign off on everything. But our process is a diverse process, and I have the game plan for generations to follow in our department. And if you look at the statistics that I just talked about, it kind of shows that I think that's more important than putting up flyers and things like that.
Now, my next question was, which I think you touched on it, and we've been asking other, especially the police as well. What has been the rate of transfer from your department to maybe other municipalities? Has it been high?
We have nobody transferring out. We actually, like I was saying, we get emails all the time of people wanting to transfer in. We have a total opposite problem. If I had another 25 or 50 positions in my budget, and like I was talking about, as the city grows, we're going to need to add those positions, but I won't have a problem with hiring. I mean, we always got to stay on top of getting non-represented people of our community the opportunity and actually get them to score high. But I can hire, if I had the chance to hire 100 people right now, I can do it tomorrow if you guys gave me the opportunity. I don't have a problem with finding people that want to be Syracuse firefighters, not at all.
So you said you have 389 positions, right?
Yep, 368 will be sworn, and then 28 are civilian, yes.
Now, with that, where's the vacancy that you are trying to fill? What's your goal? Because I know with the police, they have like a magic number. Do you have a magic number?
Currently, right now, we have 368 budget vacancies.
Okay.
That's going to be, especially after we acquire the airport in July, and that's the number that, working through the budget director and the budget office, that's the number we landed on for this fiscal year. So as people retire, we average about, the last 2 years, we average about 15 retirements a year. And based off that SAFER grant, when we reach a certain number, which is a certain number that we have to maintain a certain amount of people.
Has it been a specific number? Because I know with the police, Tim Rudd is like, what, 470 originally? What is it with the fire department?
Right now, it's 368 is the number
368.
we've come up with.
That's the number that the ceiling that you highest that you ever been. Is that the highest?
No, that's not the highest we've ever been.
Okay.
I mean,
What's that?
I mean, historically, we've had, back in 1974, we had 589 firefighters. Just back to 1994, 95. In our department, previous to me being the chief, our department has seen a lot of reductions in on-duty manpower and budgeted spots, which negatively affect our ability to do our job. And I meant to start off the presentation by just letting you guys what our mission is. Our mission is to protect lives, to save lives, to protect property and to save property, and to mitigate any type of emergency hazard. So the people are the number one thing we need to do all those things to meet our mission. So,
so you are at a capacity now. If this last class come in, you are good.
Based off our budgeted spots, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I talked to Tim Rudd,
Yeah.
Budget Director Rudd. When we hit a certain amount of retirements, we're going to probably have to put a class on. We're looking at, we might not have to do that until next fiscal year, but that all depends on the retirements.
Okay.
And at the same time, like I said, 12 of these positions are paid for by the federal government that aren't going to be paid out of our budget. So
I want to go back to the airport officers that are coming in.
Counselor, can I just say the numbers one different way? Because I think it helps and it informs so the number that we talk about for police is 423. The number last year for fire was 354. And then the fire department got a grant for 12 positions to be funded by the federal government for 3 years. So that's how you get to 366. Then we added 2, so it's 368. And their overtime, it basically goes up, is by 3%, but then we subtracted the cost of the 2 that we added. So we were trying to have a similar approach to both police and fire in this way. But so the staffing, and correct me, so they have 26 roughly who were at the airport.
The airport,
who are
26.
going to drop in. So even though we're at 368, the head count in the initial part of the year will actually be above that number.
Okay.
And then it will take time for the retirements to kick in to drop below the funded number. But that's just kind of what we have to do, because we're not going to let people go because we don't do the airport.
And that's where I want to focus on that, because these 26 individuals that are coming over from airport, because I know, right, correct me if I'm wrong, the 26 that are coming over used to be funded through airport. It didn't go through our budget.
Well,
right?
yeah, I'll break it down a little bit more to piggyback off of Tim Rudd.
So he would have had vacancies if not for the airport coming in. But
Okay.
because the airport people got swallowed into the general operations, so last year's number would have been 354 plus the 26
Okay.
at the airport. The 26 at the airport goes away, or whatever that number is. So now you only have that base to swallow everyone. We're going to be a little above the base to start. And then eventually he's going to have to hire a new class when he dips below, because the requirement of the 12 federal funded positions is that we maintain the level that we were at when we got the grant.
How long are those funded for?
3 years.
Hey, Chief, so I know you said based on this contract, you have enough firefighters. So as our numbers grow in our community and we get more and more people to come back, because that's what we want, right? You're gonna need more and more firefighters, or you could use more firefighters now.
We definitely do. Right now, we have 69 on duty. When there's a structure fire right off the rip, that takes 34 of our firefighters. If it turns into a second alarm, which we have a lot of those fires that it turn into escalating events, they rise up to 50 firefighters have to respond to the scene, which leave just almost 19 firefighters to handle the rest of the city. Then if you get another fire at the same time, we do the math, we're doing our job with half the people. So
Let me just jump in on that for a quick minute. So what does the shifts look like? What's the number of people on per shift?
the people number on, like I was saying earlier, there's going to be 70 people on duty per shift. They're going to be running out of, they're strategically placed throughout the city. So there's going to be 70 per shift.
3 shifts?
There's 4 shifts.
4 shifts.
4 shifts.
So I'm asking a question, Chief Mon. So do you have enough firefighters with this budget, or if the budget was different, would you?
So the
Yeah,
goal is to, I think over the last 10 or 12 years, we've lost 6 on-duty positions. The closure of Station 7, the reduction of our rescue company by 1, and we lost the reduction of truck company 1 that ended up turning into a 3-person company. So we've lost 6 on-duty positions, which actually turn into 24 spots on the 4 different shifts if you're covering all the shifts. So when you take that into effect, right now up on the east side, we have Station 10. The next closest fire station around is over on Middle Ave, down on State and Adams, or over on Short. So when that station was closed, the station on West Street was also combined with Station 7 and Station 6, and they created a company. But we've lost 6 on-duty personnel, and that's been occurring over time, but that actually happened in 2013 is when they closed Station 7, and the years previously we've lost more people. So as the city grows, and even now we have a hard time. If it wasn't for our command staff and our firefighters, I mean, they go answer calls and they're just going call to call, but it's because of their will and determination, and their management of the resources is how we've been able to just stay above water. But certainly a city this size, and if we continue to grow, if we build, you know, we got Blueprint 15 and all those things coming, they're going to be a different type of construction. They're a different type of hazard. Right now over in Pioneer Homes, it's a different type of the fires don't spread as much. So when you start building all these new constructions with wood frame, we're going to have our hands full. We already are seeing that now. So we definitely, the goal, even through the 81 construction, because we were worried about response times, we asked the state DOT to build another fire station. We asked them to pay for more people on duty. We asked for several things and to equip those firefighters with the tools and equipment so we can actually help support that quadrant of the city that we were worried is going to get shut off. But the response from the state was saying that that doesn't fall underneath their purview, and they're going to make sure that response routes are going to be able to be accessible. So at some point, we're going to need more firefighters on duty to actually handle all the calls and all the things that we do, that we're tasked to do. And I think that what everybody expects to happen, the last thing I want is our fire department to have an issue like we have with the ambulance service, which I don't think we're going to be there. We'll manage it, but the more resources we have to handle those, that's the goal. So we definitely not sure when that's going to happen, but if we had those resources right now, we'd be able to put them to work right now.
See, I think you've done a great job planning for a future that you couldn't even foresee. I mean, when I was last on the council, this building was empty across the street. You know, the demographics of building structures and everything else is, you know, cause you to be nimble. And the disastrous cuts under the previous administration really put you guys under a burden.
Yes.
I got a call last week regarding a fire up at the university, and it just appalled me, but you were so prompt. There are people living, you know, in a basement, like an illegal basement bedroom. Was
Yes,
in one of the places.
and
that scares the heck out of me.
yes,
Yeah, but you guys, I guess, were there in 2 minutes.
yep, and
The fire, and you know, nobody got hurt.
and the issue is without the people on duty and being able to respond on time, then you can have positive outcomes to people that are trapped in fires and those types of things, and you can mitigate the hazard. Because sometimes, even with all those things in place, people still will become a victim of a fire because of when everything is on point. But because of our alarm volume, when you close down Station 7 and you close down Station 6, now Station 1 becomes one of the busiest companies of a fire department in all of New York State, and they're busy. So now there's a fire up at Station 10, which is on Genesee Street, and then just say another company's on another alarm, and they're on a medical call, or we're waiting for an ambulance, or whatever the situation is. Now you're bringing firefighters from down on Salina Street, the South Salina Street up there. I mean, people are coming from longer distances to actually affect change, which that's kind of, it's one of those physical barriers that you can't overcome. Having people on duty ready to respond in a timely manner and actually getting there quick to start affecting change when fires are going through a building, that's our goal. So the more resources we have to do that, I think the city's going to be better off.
And the logistical planning when 81 does come down, that you're going to have to go through during the construction to find out where, you know, how the routes in order to get to the other side of the city.
Yes.
Is amazing. I mean, and just the old Inner Harbor. I mean, the Inner Harbor's all different construction than what used to be over there. It's you have to be pretty nimble there, Chief.
What would you need, Chief Mons, to be safe?
I mean, currently right now, I mean, if we could at least walk back the last few cuts over the last decade, putting a new Station 7 somewhere around where Kennedy Square was at, around that location that could go north, south, east, and west in a quick amount of time, because that firehouse that was there, it immediately responded to the east side, but it was the station over on Lodi and Salina. This particular Station 7, it was often a second arriving company on scene, so it was like having a place right there would be great, because they can go to the west side, they can actually make their way to the south and east. But as you start developing the 81 area, and if the Inner Harbor turns into more development like the Iron Pier that's over there now, I mean, I'll just say as a fire chief, we need more on-duty resources and the tools and equipment and the money to train those
I'm just
firefighters.
gonna say this, and it ain't gonna be popular, but oh well, and I get you, okay? But I'm gonna say this, because we got folks in our city buying up stuff. There are private developers that owns everything around that old fire station. I had said this before, that at some point, if everybody wanna be partners with us, then they truly need to partner with us, because they got enough money. That's their community they built. So they should be able to build a fire station to support their community. And that's just the way I see that.
So that's the goal at some point, is to figure out how to get there. I think working with the deputy mayor and Greg Lowe, just trying to figure out if we can start making some headway through the 81 construction project, because we're gonna be tasked with doing more things, not just responding to other sides of the city, but if there are any technical rescue issues, if somebody gets hurt over there, we're responding to that. Our resources are gonna be, we're gonna be the first response for the whole construction site. I mean, they might have a special team on the location, but when it gets pretty bad, we're gonna be called no matter what is going on, whether it's a hazardous materials call, whether it's a technical rescue call. That's what our firefighters are gonna be tasked to, in addition to what they're already doing, so.
So Chief, with that, has there been a discussion with you and the administration as the 81 project is gearing up to come? Has there been a discussion?
Councilman Jump, we gotta take off, okay?
Yes, sorry.
But I just got one question for you. The professional services, the uptick in the numbers.
So those are, because of our plan review situation, we, out of that professional services, we pay for somebody to do plan reviews. We have, our chaplains are in there. Our fiscal officer comes out of that budget. So that's where those come from. Okay.
So has there been discussion with the mayor's office, the DOT, because as I-81 come down, it's gonna pretty much probably cut the city in half.
Yes.
So the companies on this side may not be able to have enough ample time to rush over there.
Yes.
The other side of the town. Has there been discussion to talk about maybe adding that closed fire station through DOT funding or in another way? Has there been?
Certainly.
Or increasing your budget in a sense through I-81 funding to make sure that you have enough?
Yeah, we put together a mitigation plan for us to be able to respond through the construction. The mayor's office, with especially Greg Lowe and the deputy mayor, have been really engaged, and they understand what our needs are, what the needs of our people in the city are gonna be. The first step was to ask through the DEIS response, and then we just got word, I think last week, this response came that they didn't think that was under their purview to allocate funds to pay for a fire station, more people on duty, to pay for our training and things like that we're gonna need to help mitigate the construction. So that was the first step. We've definitely been having conversations about how we handle the situation. So I think we're just, once the state shot that proposal down, now we have to figure out where we're gonna go from here.
Okay. I want to go back to the airport
Yep.
conversation. Now, there are 26.
So
What is the budgetary cost in addition at all, Tim Rock and both?
So this is the thing, so I believe last year we were funded for the airport and for our sworn budget, which is our city firefighters. We had approximately 379 to 380 sworn positions that were in between both of those. Due to retirements, especially we were, I think around January or February, that's when the airport authority made the decision that they wanted to have somebody else provide their service that we provide out there. So what ended up happening was, based off of the retirements that happened between January and currently our situation right now, and let me grab those numbers for you. So right around the time when they told us they didn't want our services out there anymore, with Jason Terreri and the airport authority, we were at 375 firefighters in the city and at the airport. That was on February 2nd. Since then, we've had 10 retirements. Now we're down to 365 current active firefighters that are in the city and that are still staffing the airport until July 1st. So when those firefighters come in, Right now, our budget's for 368 to
Yeah.
have manpower in the city, so we're right at the number that,
So 10 retirement, 26 coming in, that leave what, 16, Timrod?
no, those were,
Huh?
no, so those 26 positions at the airport, those 26 positions at the airport, because there has been 10 retirements between the sworn members, really, there's only 16, and it's just we have them working in different places to cover, but we're actually down to 365. So we're actually right now 3 positions under the budgeted spot for our next fiscal year between the two. Last year, and I'm not sure even if we got the reimbursement from the airport,
Yeah,
but
I just want to know, you know, we have allocated the budget for the city, for the fire department. Now we have been told that this additional folks that are coming in,
Councilor Majek, we absorb that through retirements.
okay, you observe that the retirement,
Yes.
and that's all, yeah, because I want to know through, observing that through, retirement, how many are left, or does the retirement cover the whole 26? And we just, you know, weave that into the budget without extra cost?
Counselor, my projection right now.
Chief Downs can use the microphone.
My projection right now, Counselor, is our budgeted positions will be 368.
Okay,
And on July 1st, when we have the airport, we absorb everybody in and place them into their positions. We'll be at 362 total.
okay, so that leaves about 6 even vacancies.
6 vacancies. That's the projection right now, based on retirements, and that's with everybody graduating the recruit class. If all the 24 that are there, if they make it, then we would still be 6 short of our budgeted number based on the
Okay,
projection
so
right
we
now.
will still be in, okay,
Yes, sir.
what about,
And then moving forward, we have an anticipated
it's
another
adding up.
9 retirements.
okay, and nine, which, as you bring in a new class, that should also be observed into that, right?
Yes, yep, and then we'll just have one budget.
I was trying to say this earlier, but maybe it wasn't. So we would have had 26 fewer spots because of getting rid of the airport, right? And part of the airport discussion is like, was the airport paying the appropriate cost for those 26? And the answer was probably not. So we were probably kind of subsidizing that cost. But in a normal year, it would have been even harder to absorb the 26 people into the existing budget, except we had the 12 grant spots. So in theory, instead of needing to hire that many more, we have more open spots to fill them in. And then the retirements help balance it. So hopefully it all kind of works. But without retirements, it would have been an issue where we'd have more people in the department than we have budget. But as long as retirements occur.
Retirement are coming
Or we
in.
could have just opened up Station 7 and they could have just, so we could have done that.
Yeah, I don't know how Council Hogan will
Well,
feel about.
no, hey, listen, somebody campaigned for mayor on Station 7.
Okay.
Chief, that property up there, that's still owned by the city, that little?
Station 7, yes,
And the building's falling apart, obviously, now.
it's critical for us now because we're using it as storage. During COVID, we were doing testing and we utilize it all every day.
Is there I'm not familiar with the property as far as the boundaries go. Is there property to expand, could you put a new station there at exactly the same place or not? No, couldn't, chief?
I mean-
Oh, no, I'm listening to the architect over here, the city.
As long as we can fit the firefighters in our fire truck and our tools and equipment, we'll take whatever we can get.
Jeez, okay.
So that would,
That's interesting situation there, because I see with 81 and all that, I mean, you're the strategist. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, there's,
Yeah.
it's been tough to operate without that station up there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the goal is, like Councilor Caldwell says, we all want the city to expand. We want to turn this into a destination for more businesses and people to come. The leaders of the fire department and the members know we need more resources to meet those desires at some point. And we're getting to that point right now where we're adding one more person. Last year we had 69 on duty. This year we're going to have 70 on duty. To add those other 5 people that were lost over the last decade or so would be great. Not just for the firefighters, but for the people that we're sworn to protect. So it's just a better service that we can provide.
I want to switch gears a little bit, Chief.
Okay.
And I want to talk about, about grants
Okay.
and the after effect of grant funded position and how, once those grants runs out, that the city has to pick up whatever.
Yes.
What is that like for you? What are those positions, and has the city been able to pick up where grant ran out?
So
On
I'll
your-
answer this from a
your
fire chief's
department.
perspective, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Director Rudd will have a comment on this, but we have 368 budgeted positions right now. Right now, 12 of those over the next 3 years will be paid, and this is the first time that this
All
grant.
of the positions?
12 of the positions are gonna pay for all wages, healthcare benefits, and all the benefits for 3 years. In 3 years from now, we're gonna need more than 368 positions, so the city has to fund these 368 no matter what. Right now, we have 368 in our budget. FEMA's gonna pay for 3.27 million of that over 3 years. After that grant runs out, we'll be back to where we were before we got this grant, where we have to pay for the protection that we want in the city. So the funded positions are based off of, what we have in our budget, which is 368. So right now, we're getting a discount from FEMA to help us fund that, but
For the next 3 years?
historically, yeah, and that's where the budget cuts come in. Historically, there have been reductions, so they didn't have to pay that money, but as that happens, the service suffers and different type of statistics start to rise. So we're just waiting for when this grant expires, we're gonna still have to have a budgeted amount of positions, and it's gonna have to be funded through the city budget. So
Okay. I'm asking this because I asked the same question with the police. And I would like to know, those positions, could you write it up and send it to me, say these positions are being funded by the grant, they will run out for at this amount of time, this is what the city need to pick up after 3 years.
Yeah.
Could you send that to me?
Yeah.
And maybe other counselors that want to see it?
yeah, and and every year, like I said, we average 15 retirements per year. So as those people retire, they come off the books, new people come on the books. So these 15 that are coming off the books this year, these 12 that we just hired, the city would historically have to pay for those. Now we don't for the next 3 years for 12 of them.
Okay.
So, all right, but I will send you that information.
Okay, I want to go back to,
$3.27 million. Yeah, 1 million a year.
1 million.
1.9.
So he's saying 3.2 million over 3 years is the value of the grant of paying for the 12. So 3 years from now, we're gonna have to add roughly 1.1 million into their budget to maintain the staffing level, or else there would be pressure to reduce the staffing level down to the level before the grant.
Okay, so thank you, that's helpful. I want to go back to the staffing, and you said earlier that there are 14 female
Yes.
in your department. Now, one of the things that I've been hearing and reading and seeing statistically, and as people do what they do, is research, and I read that females are paid less than male. How is that through your department? Are these female getting compensated equally as their peers?
So our pay is based off of rank. You have a firefighter rank, lieutenant, captain, as you'll see in our sworn budget. It has nothing to do with your gender.
Okay.
Or any other demographical determining factor. You're paid according to the collective bargaining agreement, based off of your rank and the time on your
Okay,
job.
so a female lieutenant versus a female male,
Not an issue at all.
okay, okay.
No, they do the same job, they get the same pay.
Okay. Other questions?
Chief, what is a good intent call?
A good intent call is a call, say somebody, Councilor Majuk has called me a couple times where somebody lives next door to Colebrook Creek, and the creek overflows, the water goes in their basement, they're worried about their utilities or electrical hazards, and then they'll call 911, we'll go to make sure everything's safe. From there, we call whatever other resources that is needed, such as National Grid, or whatever, you know, it might be a water department issue, but we go and secure this house to make sure there are no safety issues, things like that. Or if somebody sees smoke and it could be steam, but they think it's a smoke call, their intent was to call 911 because they thought a hazard was going on, and when we get there, we're like, you know, this was steam, so it was just a good intention to call 911.
So good intent means you're there to check the safety of the situation, yeah?
Yes, when somebody calls 911, sometimes what they think is going on isn't actually what's going on until we get there to verify it. So I would say it's a community member that thinks an emergency is going on and they have the intention on calling the 911 fire department to come handle it. And when we get there, we realize it's not an emergency, but their intentions was good. So that would be a good intent call.
Okay, gotcha.
Chief, you got 10 more lieutenants, they're like sergeants in the police department, correct? So
Yes.
they'll all be filled through, obviously, promotional examinations and all that.
Yeah, and we talked to Tim Rudd. I think last year we kind of under budgeted those positions, and we kind of made the budget work by underspending in other accounts to pay for those. So I think this is right where we need to be based off of the acquisition of the airport.
No
firefighter.
supervision for them.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
I have a question. Is there a simple formula that you use, like you need one firefighter for every 230 citizens?
So typically, we call them companies, and then like at one firehouse, there could be 2 companies. So there's 4 people on duty. You typically want to have 5 people assigned to that fire station on that shift. So when somebody's on vacation, you can try to not have to cover it with overtime. So for every company, we try to have an extra 5th on that particular platoon.
But as far as like the whole city, so what's our population in Syracuse? Is it
137,000?
Yep, and so there's 2 kind of 2 points to your question. One is how many people are we gonna have in a fire station to help with administrative situations, and then there's another point to your question: how many people do we need to have on duty to provide the protection, and then administratively, what do we need to do to backfill when that's needed? I don't know if Chief Downs has anything else to add to that. Chief Downs is in charge of our personnel transferring, making sure everything's balanced.
Counselor, the simple answer to your question is no, we do not. Our staffing is based geographical, so it's not one firefighter per 1,000 or 10,000. If a certain area happens to experience growth, the company in that geographic area just has more work. That's the simple answer to that.
We also take into effect, you know, alarms, how many alarms we have. You know, we look at fatal fires and see, you know, how many people are on duty. And, you know, when you reduce manpower on duty, some of the statistics rise. And so we try to put all that stuff together to come up with what we have now. And I think this will be the first year in several decades, the first fiscal year, that we actually increase staffing in the city. And it's only by 1 firefighter, but that firefighter that's going to that one company, their job is to go to every fire and cut a hole in the roof so the firefighters inside have release from the heat from the products of combustion. They were doing that job with 3 people, and historically over the history of our department, it always had been 4. So we're actually putting another person on duty for that. So, this it's the first time in several decades that this budget will allow us to add another person on duty. But the goal is, like we've been talking about, as you move forward, how do you figure out in the budget to put more people on duty to provide the service?
I want to follow up a little bit I want to follow up on that. Is there a code in the fire department or, you know, anywhere else in here or in the nation where you say, okay, we have about 1,000 people that, 1,000 people equal to maybe 1 firefighter? Is there like a code where you figure out how many firefighters you need per population?
I'm sure somewhere there's some data that can put together any type of analysis we want, but I think the real thing is through our 20-year careers,
Right.
we know that when there's a fire on the east side, the response times from the first arriving companies is critical. You get on scene, you figure out what's going on, and then what other station is coming next. And like I said earlier, based on our call volume, sometimes that next arriving station is out on another call. So the domino effect of the call volume based on the reduction of manpower over the last few decades, without even doing any in-depth analysis, we know that the fire protection is not what it used to be over a decade or two ago, because we had more resources when there was a fire. You had more people coming immediately to help mitigate the hazard. So
Yeah, because I've been asking that question, Councilor Hogan, since I got here. You know, how do you determine service members?
Every city's unique. We did the same thing the police department years ago. I mean, the city of Syracuse is about 26 square miles, I believe. It's 148,000 people. I was wrong. It's 2020, it's 148,000 people. You know, demographically, like the city of Savannah, which is about the same size there, is 60 square miles. So, I mean, you know, it depends on a lot of different factors besides population. So.
Okay,
And,
okay.
and then we have, you put into effect the risk factor for fires, you know, and everybody here knows what the poverty level in the city is. The United States Fire Administration correlates poverty, neighborhoods, crime with structure fires, which in turn drives the fatal fires in different cities. So those are the statistics that we look at, and I don't think we have to look further outside of our city to know where we were at, where we're at now, what we desire as a city, and the fire protection we need.
Good job on Barrett Street, too.
Thank you.
And do we have other questions?
I'm good.
Okay, so yes.
Can I say one thing? Because I don't carry many compliments in this pocket, but I will give one to the fire department.
Yeah.
Because Chief Maz does a great job prioritizing so many things, like the diversity, the thoughtfulness, the data. He's like a relentless advocate for his own department, which is great to see. It makes him like not a worthy adversary, but like there's times where we have different agreements because of it, but he's accessible. He takes the time to reach an understanding where we can basically say we understand why we disagree. And there's so few people who do that, and he's transparent and truthful. And I think that vibe echoes down below, and Chief Downs comes that way too. So they're really great to work with around these issues because we can actually arrive at an understanding of what we're talking about, even when we disagree.
I personally wish you were more well-prepared there, Chief. Every time, it's like,
I think
you
we
got
just-
an answer for everything, man.
Well, thank you. We just want to be able to provide the service that we know the city needs, and there's a lot of data that you can throw out. And I think we, just listening to the radio, watching the firefighters go to calls, watching some of our citizens our constituents that call 911 and the outcomes don't come out great. Like we had a fatal fire a couple weeks ago on Fenway Drive where our firefighters were there under 2 minutes. You couldn't even see the house. It was so much smoke. They threw a ladder to the second floor. The firefighter, and it was my old shift before the mayor appointed me chief. This used to be the shift that I worked on. And they got there within 2 minutes. They threw a ladder to the second floor window where a lady was hanging out of the window because the smoke and the fire had advanced so far before we got there. And the firefighter climbed the ground ladder, and the fire from the first floor encapsulated his torso, burnt our ladder. And, you know, they were able to get inside the second floor and remove the lady. But even when you have a lot of things in place, you know, we try to avoid these outcomes. And that's what our goal is when we're asking for things. It's not to, you know, just to say we're asking for it, but it's to actually provide a better service. When I talk about trying to open up Station 7, it's to be able to have another immediate response to go support that station from Station 10 when we have those types of fires, to get people on scene to help coordinate. Those firefighters were based off of where cars were parked in the driveway, and they were doing some construction on the back deck. They were actually standing on each other's backs to climb into the second floor window because the ladders couldn't be placed properly. You know, so we try our best to make everything work, but it starts with the people. You got to have good firefighters, trained firefighters. You got to be strategically placed in the city to answer all the calls, which we do, and we answer them in a county best approximately 3 minutes. And you got to have the on-duty presence to get there. So without all those things, that's how you affect and try to save people's lives, and that's what we're trying to do. So when we're asking on behalf of the people that we're sworn to protect. So
Thank you, Chief. Now, was last year your highest year of fires? Because last year was just so bad.
no, last year,
So bad. Like everywhere you turn, there was a fire, you know?
last year we had 75. When Chief Downs and we both started in the year 2000. we would be well around 100 fires per year. Chief Kisselstein came on right after that, right around 100 fires per year. But back then there weren't cell phones. You know, now somebody sees a fire, we get alerted a lot of times earlier. And like the Barrett Street fire, we're there within a couple minutes. And when you show up to see some of the conflagrations that are happening, even with cell phones, it's amazing that fires get going that fast. But
An old neighborhood, old section of town, dead-end street, that's really difficult,
Yep.
really difficult area.
so 75 is, I would say that is the amount of major fires that we're expecting to go to, between 75 and 100 a year.
Okay, and you were within that range?
Yep, we were within that range, and right now we're on track for 100 fires this year. And most of these fires are from, you know, kitchen fires, smoking, things of those nature, so.
Well, I want to echo what Tim Rudd and Council Organ have been saying about the work you do and your commitment with your team, Chief Downs, and everyone on your team, and how, you know, fortunate we are to have you. So thank you so much for what you do for us.
Okay.
And continue to do for us.
All right, thank you.
That will do it for our committee meeting. Oh, you got something to say?
No, thank you,
You have one
Council.
more thing?
Yeah.
You
No
have one more
problem.
thing to say?
I was just gonna say, I just wanna first, you know, recognize we had 45 firefighters that have died in the line of duty doing the jobs that our firefighters are doing now, and just recognize them and recognize our firefighters and our staff for just coming to work every day through the pandemic. I know a lot of us have been doing it, but they've been going to people when they're calling 911 to be sick. And I think a lot of what we're trying to do is, whether the cancer reduction program we're putting in place, which is gonna be one of the best in the state for a fire department, our professional development program, we're just trying to actually give our firefighters more to help them do the job so we can protect the city. I actually got a couple of our guides.
You got a couple of gears for us?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that if you can look them over and just hand them back, because we have, we ordered them just for the amount of firefighters. But when these 24 firefighters graduate, they're gonna be given a roadmap on how to get promoted, how to take an interview, how to go through the interview process. If they want to transfer from an engine company to a truck company or to a rescue company, there's been a lot of people that have worked hard on this, but we just want to give people pathways, and really it's a formal process in place to produce better leaders in our department, and it's going to be a formal way to have a succession plan for whoever's going to replace all of our jobs. And I can go on the record to say there's firefighters in our department right now that will be the chief one day, either of this department or other departments in the state, based off of this program we're putting together. So we have firefighters that are signing up to take classes based off of the program that we're putting together. So it's it's the first formal program we've ever put together. The union has been really supportive of it, and as we're hiring more city residents, you're giving those city residents a pathway to figure out how to be the chief one day.
Well, keep it going, Chief, because I have a son that is obsessed with to be a firefighter, and he's currently 7. He's obsessed. Like he's.
You have a cadet program you can get him in?
We do. I didn't even talk about that stuff. I got so much stuff to talk about. I'm probably over prepared.
Our next meeting's not until noon, so I'm just saying.
So I got a lot of stuff, and I should invite you over to the
Yeah.
PSLA and show you what we're doing over there, because
Love it.
we have some great stuff. We're just trying to expand it and get it over the
Right.
finish line. So thank you.
Awesome. Super job. You should share that with the police. They should come up with that booklet too. That'd be great.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. That will do it for us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rod.